Hello, everyone, and welcome to Eminence TV Live. I'm your host, Scoots, along with my co host, Ashani. And this week we are joined by Alex McKinley, Viverus of the epicstorm.com.
Hey
We'd like to
everybody,
thank.
how's it going?
Hey, hello. Hello, everybody. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Moxfield and the Epic Storm, without whom this wouldn't be so amazing. If you're enjoying Eminence content and would like to see more, please consider subscribing here on Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to one channel a month for free. We'd love if you'd consider using that on us. We're also now on Patreon at patreon.com/eminenceMTG. Your pledge there goes to improve the programs of Eminence cEDH University, along with many other things. We'd be so grateful for your support. This week, I already said it, but we have Alex McKinley from the epicstorm.com. Let's get down to it. Some announcements to start the show. Eminence dates to take note of. January 13th through the 15th in San Jose, California, we have Silicon Dynasty. We have Punt City 2, March 24th through 26th in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. We have the Cookout, July 28th through the 30th in Atlanta, Georgia. We have Windmill Slam, September 23rd through 25th in San Jose, California. And those are the Eminence events and some events that are sponsored by Eminence. We have the Chaos Proving Grounds, October 22nd. There's a $10 entry. It's rolling 16-player tournaments. And whoever wins gets to, I think, some final table for some good prizes. And then we have Chaos 5 happening November 5th, which is sponsored by us and Spite Plays. So, we have a thing that we like to do at the top of the broadcast, which is talk about some of the fun things that have occurred on the cEDH subreddit over the past week. Um, I'm reading Mitch's comments in chat right now. Uh, fair, Mitch, fair. Um, we have first we have Play to Win released their video. What's the best stacks commander in cEDH? And I don't want to give away any spoilers, but a Stacks deck won the pod. I know that's be crazy. A Stacks deck did win the pod. There was lots of stacks. It was probably very useful data for something. Shawnee,
Absolutely.
did you get a chance to watch the video at all?
Um, no, but I bet it was a very entertaining video for all the stacks lover and true mid-range lovers out there. It was a great game, I believe. But
You
I did
sound
not.
you sound very convinced of that. Yeah, you were
Absolutely. It was a great game. How
yeah.
can you not want four stacks deck of different commanders? Of course.
Yeah,
Riveting gameplay.
I think the takeaway from this is that in a pot of four stacks players, a stacks player can actually win a cEDH game. So,
I mean, that's rude of you to say that, Scott.
yeah,
Heliod has won many games, and also won a tournament, I think. Am I saying that incorrectly?
I don't know.
There's plenty of variants in the format, you know?
Yeah,
Exactly. We
yeah.
can get dubs.
There's room for everything under the sun, just not
Exactly.
Aurelia. Uh,
Yep. Well done. Well done.
thank you. Um, we went over this briefly, but there are the Chaos Tournament events. Important to note. In 2023, there will be an event the third Saturday of every month. Uh, so that's a very exciting thing to look for as you prepare for maybe the Eminence EDH tournament circuit. Lots of good opportunities to practice your skills.
Hmm.
Um,
Get that prep in.
you can find out more about all the chaos events at chaostournaments.com. That's KA0S tournaments.com. The Proving Grounds have a 10 a.m. Eastern start time on the 22nd. It's a $10 entry, and the winner of the final pod receives $60, and the other three finalists receive $20. Also, importantly, the 11-5 Chaos Tournament 5 is an official Oktoberfest qualifier event, which means it is a feeder into that tournament. So, uh, that's good. That's exciting to see. Hopefully, that is the shape of things to come as we see more and more tournament organizations working together to provide the best event players. Uh, say that like snow next in it. Mike won city. Okay,
Who not the deck? That's rude,
Mike
Scott.
won. Um,
Winota won Pun City.
I do think Winota is in the top 5 of decks in the format right now. So,
Yeah, I agree.
I just wanted to give props. Um,
Definitely the palette. Yeah.
we had another article which asked, "I love listening to podcasts and currently have a few cEDH ones in my rotation. Is there a full list somewhere? And if not, what do you guys recommend?" The ones I currently listen to are, and then they listed the following: Into the North, the Play to Win podcast, the Miscast, the Mind Sculptors, the Eternal Glory podcast, and Playing with Power. Yeah, Shani, can you think of any other podcasts that talk about cEDH?
Um, I believe. Oh my goodness, I'm now blanking on their name. The coffee guys. The
Commander Coffee. Okay.
Commander Coffee. Yep, yep, yep.
Um,
That's about it for me.
no other podcasts about
No.
cEDH
Mm,
or like
mm,
maybe run by our co-host
mm.
Adam from
The
the podcast.
Sandman. Oh my
Yeah, there we
goodness.
go. We
Wow.
got
What a
there.
shame. I never
We
listened to
got
it.
we got
Also,
there.
I'm very sorry, Adam.
Wow.
I will definitely put that on my rotation. Maybe Alex has some in his rotation.
That's about it. I listen to a lot of other Magic podcasts, but they're not generally CDH related.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I
fine.
haven't done the deep dive in CDH content
Maybe
yet, but
maybe we want to hear about Legacy, Modern, and Standard. And even though Standard is not a format, but maybe we want
standard
to
is
hear
not a
about that.
format, no.
I
Yeah,
think a
Everyday Eternal is great.
There you go. See, well done. I got the plug in. We got the plug in.
I think another one that I enjoyed in the past was the Late Nights. I don't know if anybody's heard of that podcast, but it's a podcast with Hire, myself, and Deke, where we occasionally talk about CH. And then a podcast that I miss deeply is the Birthing Pod, hosted by Wedge. That was a good one. Hunty Golem. Interestingly, birds are not real, so they are not featured in the podcast. Let's see, and the last thing that we have on the docket is the place where I think we'll have some good discussion. The strongest Esper commander in cEDH. Let me ask
Yes.
you, is it not just Timna Malcolm?
I don't think it
Is it?
matters.
Doesn't
Oh,
matter.
okay.
Why
Let's
doesn't
let's
it
No,
let's
matter?
this
let's not
is
start off strong as this, Alex. Let's
I don't
entertain
know.
it first. Let's
This
entertain it.
was all right. I mean, yeah, Timna Malcolm is probably if I was forced to play Esper, the commanders I would pick. I
Wanted to
don't think that
hear
there's a real
Alex's
reason
take.
to play anything else. But
Definitely.
for the stronger take, this was one of the weirder things coming over from a more competitive 60 card background. Is that in the CH space, there's this obsession with making X work. What's the best X? And it feels like a lot of times, a lot of people don't spend the time to ask themselves, is X good? Like, why are you playing Esper? Why are you playing Rakdos? Should you be playing those decks in the first place before you try to figure out what the best version of that is? And in the case of Esper, you're giving up access to Dockside and to Breach, and those are very good Magic cards, or so I'm told.
I've heard those are good cards. Um,
What about if I want to be special and now play red and play Darkside and Breach? What about that? Maybe I want to be a special cookie.
Sure, that sounds like you just don't want to win as much, and that's okay.
And that's okay. There we go. There we go. But
I believe there are competitive people and dragon people. I believe that's the
That's exactly what
The
Brian
two
said.
the
Yeah.
two groups of people that play
And
CEDH,
Yeah.
right?
it's also the pattern of Reapers, people.
Yeah, there is the pattern of Reavers people. That's the third one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
third group.
you can build almost any commander to look like a CDH deck. But whether or not that CDH deck gives you the best probability of winning or is actually a strong deck, uh, there's really only maybe 5 to 6 decks that actually hit that mark, and that's not surprising. In most formats, there aren't 20 to 100 or however many decks are on the database. There's not that many playable decks that you could actually take to a tournament and expect to win.
Hmm. So it's almost like the database is in and of itself not not an arbiter of what is and is not competitive, simply a list of decks that someone who wanted to get a foot into competitive EDH could reference possibly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you see a bunch of cards that people play in CDH and gives you kind of an idea for the feel of the format. So
Last Legacy open ton of decks, says Zentic MTG in the chat.
I mean,
so yeah, there's a lot of different ways to categorize this, right? So you can look at there's a format of decks that are good. Say for example, in Legacy, it's Delver, Moonstompy, some Control Variant, and a couple other things. Those are the decks that you would expect to see. And then there's the decks where you show up and you're like, that makes sense. It's a Legacy deck, but they're not necessarily good. TS is a very fringe deck. Bryant and I happen to play it extremely well to a set of high finishes, but I wouldn't call us a on meta deck. And that's kind of the difference between but that's actually one of the main differences between Legacy and cEDH. In cEDH, you don't have a metagame. You just have a list of things that are good, that are playable. Where in more developed formats, you get to start playing levels. You get to be like, okay, I know that X is the best deck. And I know that Y beats X a good percentage of the time. And so I get to play some of these matchup profiles to try to give myself an advantage in a tournament. Yeah, more than one thing can be true.
Yeah,
like Brian's saying in the chat.
I kind of want to dissect what you said a little bit there, Alex. I'm interested to know if you think that there is uh, something that I think is that the best pilot of a not great deck can beat an average pilot of a good deck a lot of the time. I'm interested to
Yeah,
see
sometimes.
if that happens in Legacy as well as because I know it happens in cEDH at 4-player tables, but does that happen in Legacy too?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. When I have 10 times the matches in a certain matchup than you do, I have an advantage, even if my deck is worse overall. I know what's important. I know how to play the matchup. I know how the cards are supposed to line up. So it's certainly an advantage there. And then when you take 2 pilots of equal skill and of equal experience in the matchup, then the deck power starts to shine through a lot more. There's infinite variables that go into who has probabilities at the beginning or the end of any given match.
Yeah. There's so many different decision points that kind of determine how a game goes that are outside of like excellent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah,
the
and for
sub, guys. Thank you for
Yeah,
the sub.
Helenium, thank you for the sub. MTG the Epic Storm, thank you for the sub with gaming. Much appreciated.
Yeah, and for cEDH, there's a lot of people that just happen to bring cards I own or whatever they enjoy to a tournament. There's nothing wrong with that. It just creates a metagame at a tournament in which I don't have to try really hard to figure out what to bring to the tournament because I can just bring a good deck. I can just bring a Rogsai or a Nagila or something like that. cEDH is not even close to a Nash equilibrium. There are too many people bringing nonsense. It is, yeah, it's not even close to a Nash equilibrium.
I do
and I think that geographically, it's like whatever. There's so much online play that assigning things by region is kind of silly in modern era.
It is actually there is actually like some credence to geographical differences. Like the North American and European tends to be kind of playing the same decks, but if you look at Southeast Asia or Brazil, like South America, there is a different set of decks that tend to do incredibly well in I was speaking to someone who plays in China, and one of the decks that is played often in Asia is Marwyn the Nurturer Green Elf Ball.
Yeah.
Like and that is considered a pretty good deck from what I've heard. And even in the mono green space, people play it above Selvala because they think that it's better. So and then in Brazil, frankly, I love my Brazilian friends, but some of those decks are wilding. Blue Farm with Displacer Kitten and Free Fairy, that's always cool to me. Uh, you see things like Tivit, you see things like Florian and Prosper, like those Rakdos kind of Turbo Nazi lists. Uh, do
That's
really
so
well
insane to
too.
me that people can reach such divergent conclusions. Uh, it just doesn't make sense with how the format operates, right? Because this is a format where every Magic format is first defined by its mana. What can you cast in a reasonable time frame? And it turns out the cEDH is defined by mana crypt and effects that are similar to mana crypt. Soul Lens, Soul Ring, uh, rituals, etc. And because those are good, it makes talismans good, and that makes cards that cost you know 2 and a mana good, and that feeds into the fact that you know Mystic Remora, Rhystic Study, those are very good cards. You get to just draw infinite cards, and they're acceptable threats. They get to draw more cards than your Tymna or your Crom ever will, and being able to put those into play early is good, with the understanding that free interaction is also good. So why are you not playing cards to enable all that free interaction?
Yeah, I have I have had a conversation recently regarding cantrips in cEDH decks, and that kind of paradigm came up where people said if you're not running Brainstorm in cEDH, you're going against the wisdom of players from other formats and that kind of thing. But do you think that there's any credence to the idea that when you have 100 individual cards, instead of 4 copies of something like Brainstorm, that there might be a better card in the slot? Like instead of playing Brainstorm to go get an answer, if it was just an answer instead, there.
So Brainstorm is different than every other cantrip for a couple of reasons. Cards like Ponder aren't very good because they don't see as much of the deck. They're inherently nerfed by deck size. Playing 4 copies versus 1 doesn't matter as much when we hit cEDH because you're playing like several copies of the same effect, so you're still vaguely as likely to see something, but it's just a little bit too slow. Brainstorm is really different because it allows you to fix your hand. It allows you to take cards you've drawn and put them back in your deck with a shuffle effect or something like that, which is just so different compared to everything else.
Like
It,
sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to
yeah, it's like, okay, so you've drawn several extra lands. Those are dead cards in your hand, and then casting Brainstorm allows you to turn those into live cards. So it can draw you effectively more than one card in a way that none of the rest of these can. Uh, it's also an instant, which is just busted in half anyway.
Interesting.
So
Um
So so I know we went off on a tangent. We
okay,
went off.
tangents are okay.
Well, yes, but at the end of the day, we truly need to say what the best aspect deck is,
Um
and it's Tivit.
it's
Go.
Malcolm Timna in my opinion. I don't think that there is a better thing than drawing cards and making mana,
Make
and
a man up. I agree.
I think that Tivit at 6 mana to make some clues is like very cool, and the time sieve shtick is like interesting, and you can run Oracle Consult, but the being able One, I think in Malcolm Timna, you're able to play more live tutors. You're able to play like things like Diabolic Intent, and Doomsday. That's a fun one. I enjoy that card. It's a very Timmy card, but I love it. Um, and I think in Malcolm Timna, bad hands fix themselves a lot faster. You're able to mull much lower, I think.
Okay. I mean, this is true. But Tivit though. 6 mana ward for I'll make my bed.
A
My bad
Tibbets,
treasures
Six
and
mana.
when
It's
which
six whole mana.
6
oh my
mana,
goodness.
Sean.
Really? This is
Three
Scott.
colored pips, 6
Scott,
mana.
we have played worse cards in our careers.
Yes,
Listen,
we have,
this
Sean, and I'm
this
over
is
it.
okay.
I'm
Oh,
over
you're
it. I'm
over
not
it?
doing it
Okay.
anymore, Sean. I
See,
play I play
I
Blue
realized,
Farm, Nagila, and Thrasios Timna now. That's what
you
we're
know what?
doing.
I have realized I was joining this church of playing good cards and streamlined decks, and I'm like, I needed to play some bad cards again, and I went back to Packer Halden, and it was refreshing. Just playing the doggy and just throwing it with a casual 7/7.
Gotta
It
be
was
dead
refreshing.
inside, Sean. That's when
Oh,
CEDH is fun. When you're creatively dead. Let's go. Kidding. But creatively
I mean,
dead
like,
is something that I was described as when I had more than one Thrasios Timna list. So that was fun. I enjoyed that. Um Dark Sakashima is 4RU, says Narcoleptic Goblin. Yes, that is correct. That is a correct statement that you have made. Uh Alex, we have you on, and you have some unique perspectives as far as joining the cEDH cult have go, and you have had your own interesting journey coming to the conclusions that you have. I wanted to just kind
Yeah.
of start out the interview portion of the show with asking what's your kind of initial road to cEDH?
So I got brought into CDH kind of doubtfully. I had next to no interest in playing Commander at all. And then Commander Legends was printed, and my friend Eric, Mr. Fontigalm in the chat,
Hmm.
said, okay, we're going to brew this Arami card because you can do a neat thing where you bring back 3 Spell Seekers and that wins the game. So, we worked on that for a while. I submitted to the database and got rejected, of course. I don't think my list was bad, but uh, for an Arami deck, Arami is not a good deck. It's missing a lot of things, but it was fun to enter that space. And I started playing the games, and the games started to be fun. And I just kind of kept going with that with no intention to like try too hard in the format. Then Brian got involved because I told him it was fun, and he decided to believe me. Uh, you
my
know,
goodness. What is Brian up to in the chat right now?
eventually, one Mikey Holohan told me to suck it up and play a good deck, so I started playing Blue Farm
Yep, that
and
sounds like
worked on Blue
Mikey.
Farm really hard, and it just I could not get it to a point where I felt favored versus Rogsai. I picked up Rogsai, I was like, whoa, this deck is smooth, because there's a lot of parts about Blue Farm where it's very clunky. It takes turns to set up. Rockside gets to skip all of that. I think for a long time in CDH, it was like, this turn 1, play all your rocks, turn 2, develop your rocks more, or establish a small value engine, turn 3, maybe cast a commander, and turn 4, start, winning the game.
Yeah,
Rockside got to skip all of those steps and just smooth out and do its thing and present threats on turn 2.
I do like the I think we talked about it a little bit last, kind of the explosiveness of it, and the whole no card advantage in the command zone trope, where in a deck like Rogsai, when you're able to like wheel turn 1, do you really need to be drawing cards with your characters?
Yeah, and any card advantage you have in the command zone is just worse than the cards in your main deck. That's kind of the problem, is that we're playing a vintage level format, and we're trying to hold up these commanders as, the best cards. To respond to a comment in the chat, faster combo deck beats slower combo deck. CDH is all combo mirrors. If you're not playing combo, then you're just wrong.
Losing most of the time. Like even if you look at even the stacks decks tend to resolve a combo to win the game. Like the win conless stack decks were popular for a short time, but the ones that have stayed and the ones that tend to pick up games at tables are the ones that still finish with a combo finish, whether it's Winota and Kiki Jiki Combat Celebrant or you know, the other decks that I'm sure win games that are stacks decks. I don't know. I'm sorry. But uh yeah, I think it is an interesting point to say that cEDH is just combo mirrors, and I I
And
wonder.
that's not a bad thing.
No, no, and I'm curious. I'm curious how you feel about being that cEDH is combo mirrors. Do you think that by not playing blue in those matchups, it is actively detrimental to the experience of the pod? Or is it? Do you think that non-blue uh kind of Rakdos core combo decks have a place at the cEDH table?
Uh, I don't know. So I think that Winota and Korvald are pretty much the only not two non-blue decks that you can bring to a table without griefing yourself. I don't really care about bringing a deck that griefs the experience of the table. Brian, the best pod is Quadrog, and you know
Oh
it.
my
You don't need
goodness.
to ask
Why
that question.
why did you ask
I
Um,
that
was gonna
question?
I was gonna ask it in a second.
Mm,
Gotta
uh,
keep the sponsors happy, Shawnee.
but it doesn't really matter. Like I think you can definitely bring a deck to a table and just like not exist at the table in a way that matters. Like I think a lot of times if you bring Crick to a Nagila Rogsai Blue Farm table, you just don't matter. None of your game actions are impactful, and you're just kind of wasting your time, which is unfortunate because it's when people put a lot of time into something, it's nice to get paid off, but there's only so good Mono Black can get, and it's just miles below how good their Grixis core is. Uh, Game is not a turn simulator. You make so many decisions in those first 4 turns, from your mulligans to what you decide to counter to what you interact with. I know that Ashani and I have been debating a lot recently about when do you counter a wheel effect, because it's sometimes, it's not all the time, but it's sometimes. Most of the time you probably shouldn't counter a wheel, but that's besides the point.
yeah,
Uh,
that is true.
Bryant asking, why isn't Alex in the Millennium Falcon? A good question, Bryant. Alex doesn't have a green screen behind him, and so I was unable to put him into the Millennium Falcon this week, but we'll work on it for the next time. Uh,
Yeah, Brian's been telling me for about 2 years to get a green screen. I still haven't quite done it yet, though.
if you get a green screen, I can put you in the Millennium Falcon, which is like a unique selling point of the green screen. But um, so we talked about kind of your entrance with Arumi, and then kind of progression into Rogsai, Grixis Core, Blue Farm type thing. Um, who would you say, like, you spoke briefly about Eric and you spoke about Bryant, but um as you've kind of come into your own as a cEDH player, do you have any other like positive influences that you've had, and how did they help you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of the people in the cabal that was revealed on Twitter, that's been a fun experience to be in there. Uh, that's some wild drama. 60 card drama. I got nothing on cEDH drama. It's kind of crazy. It's been a good experience being in there. I've loved it. Super positive vibes. Uh, I guess one other formative cEDH experience I had is I posted a tier list on Twitter uh,
I remember
with the
the
help of some of
objectively
the people at the
correct.
beginning.
Yeah.
And I kind of threw it out as a meme, and it took off. People got so offended. And what's wild to me is that most of the people were debating whether or not their deck was like tier C or tier D. There wasn't much discussion about what was at the top, and I don't know. There's only so much good things.
So
Yeah.
we have a
Good.
question by the Goblin. If Grix's core is good, what's green or white role in CDH?
Silence.
White is your mid-range color. That's where you get Ranger Captain of Eos. That's a heck of a card.
Yeah. Busted.
Yep. That is the biggest incentive for playing white. I actually just don't think that there's a real payoff for playing green. I know that there is someone who's experimented a lot with 4-color Nagila just to see what the true lowest number of green cards you can get to. And it's like Elvish Spirit Guide, pretty much. Maybe Worldly Tutor.
Someone named Mitch.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
worst comparison. We don't even believe in dorks. Can't even put no. I will not accept that as a green player. Green is good. I like green. Green is playable. But
Just don't
I
play
mean,
Collector Roof. That card is really bad.
ooh, you know,
Wow.
that's gonna hurt a lot of feelings. But we're here to hurt feelings, clearly.
Yeah. So to
Yeah.
expand upon that, you have to always be under your own Collector Roof, right? Like you build your deck with Collector Roof in mind. You decline to play a lot of the really good mana pieces like Talismans, Grim Monolith, etc. And so you're always under the oof, and your opponents are only under the oof sometimes. So by building your own Collector Roof, you are griefing yourself more than you are hurting your opponents. And sometimes the oof just sits in play, and then it gets bounced, and someone gets to use all their artifacts and win the game anyway. So not to say it's not an impactful card. I just don't think that putting that card in your deck raises your win percentage.
Or maybe it does. What about the part if it does? What about if you play green with blue and you get to
Yeah,
protect your collector so you
it's a
can
lot of
slowly win the
resources you
game?
spent on a
Oh my
stack space when
goodness,
you could have been
Alex,
spending those
really?
resources on winning the game.
Okay, you know what? We're just not gonna win this argument. Card draw is bad in my meta. I will keep playing my Timnas. Gosh darn it.
This is
I will not
Yeah.
I will not pair with
Zentik,
Thrasios
if
anymore.
building your own Collector Roof came at a low cost, then it wouldn't be very good in the format. That's kind of the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. It does come at a high cost. I do agree with that. Sadly, I have started cutting collectors. It does, like, it feels good when you slow down the game. The problem is you can't close out the game in that time, and that's just most of the problem in green. But for
narcoleptic.
all the go ahead, Scott.
I think like narcoleptic goblin in the chat says, "Wouldn't green not care due to the increased number of dorks and land ramp?" I'll just speak to my own experience being like a pretty staunch advocate of Thrasios Timna, and it is that y'all be playing board wipes again, and that's really frustrating. Toxic Deluge has completely blown me back to the Stone Age. Uh, and that sucks. And then land ramp, then you have to play land ramp. Like that's the
Yeah,
big issue, right? Like if you're building around oof by adding land ramp, you've already hamstrung yourself by needing to play nature's lore or whatever you're playing. I don't think it's adequate.
I agree. Like maybe if the commander sets for that kind of strategy, if you register like Tattoo over an AC, sure, you play those effects because the extra line drops draws you cards. But like if your strategy is Collector Oof Norod and the way you ramp is by playing a Nature's Lore, I mean if it works in your meta, sure, but sadly I don't think it's the way to go. Definitely can be proven wrong on that. I have definitely tried that strategy playing Oof decks for a very long time. And you get your wins, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't. You get your wins, you get your losses, but of the pattern of Team Thrasios with Collector Oof decks is you play your Collector Oof, everybody waits until they um get the cards, keep drawing the cards until they get the resources they need to go off, and all your stack pieces or your hate bears fall apart with one bounce spell. And that's a problem with hate bears, stacks, whatever you want to call it. Most of your game plan literally falls apart with one form of interaction. And when that goes off, you're normally scrambling to get it back together. And by that time it's too late.
Yeah, and the best way to stop your opponents from winning the game is to win the game yourself.
Yeah. The best
Yeah,
offense is a good
it's
offense.
exactly. And the problem is, Zentek, is that as you add more pieces to your stacks ball, it just falls apart because that's too many ants, too many things you have to draw. And if you start tutoring for things to protect your stacks pieces, you have to ask yourself, what is the opportunity cost of that tutor? Why aren't you tutoring for something that wins the game? There's just not enough of those effects to naturally draw all of them. And so you have to spend resources on tutoring, you have to spend tempo on that. And doing all of this work for an effect that doesn't directly win the game isn't worth it in cEDH with what currently exists in the format.
I don't think the comparison to Mother of Runes in Death and Taxes is correct, because again, run one safekeeper in a much larger deck. Oh.
Yep. And the other thing that Mother of Runes does in 60 card formats is it gives your creatures unblockable. That's insane. Because the best way to win in 60 card formats is through combat damage, which is not true in cEDH. In cEDH, you have to combo if you're doing something that's good.
So I mean, we now have Sick Robot, the Timnah Thrasios guru here, protecting the Timnah Thrasios players. But
Hey chat, let's be civil. Let's not call everything copium. We
oh my
gotta
god,
we gotta chill a little bit. We really
Yeah.
appreciate the discussion, but that's all it is, a discussion.
discussion and opinions that we are all allowed to have there. But no, on a serious note, Sylvan Safekeeper, if I don't know, maybe tutoring for one is fine. I definitely would tutor for a Safekeeper to protect my oof. I think, as Alex said, you should be winning the game with that tutor if you can. So I don't know, but there's definitely we definitely have an active chat with opinions happening right now,
I mean, I love it.
and
I love
Yeah.
to see the chat, and I love to see like some of the
I'm
opinions that have come up. Like Spontus feels that TNT easily gets stuck tutoring for oof just to keep up, which is a thing that I think happens. Like you burn your tutor to get collector oof, and then you don't win the game. But you could just tutor for something else and win the game, which is like the best thing in Magic.
Yeah. I don't care how many cards you've drawn if you never get to cast them. If you end the game with 12 cards in hand, did you really draw those cards?
I mean, yes,
No, you
yes,
didn't.
Alex, I did draw those cards, and because I stopped the other Rock Silence player from winning, the other one did. So sometimes it's variance, and you can. It's a multiplayer game, and some of us don't always mull for interaction, which is wrong. Mull better, people.
Hmm.
Know your role in the damn pod. But anyways, there's another question for me, I guess. How do I feel about Mindbreak Trap? Great card. I'm clearly a magnet for it because I don't respect the card. So by the time I realize I'm on my third spell, there's normally two Mindbreak Traps waiting for me. But that's okay. Everybody should play Mindbreak Trap because it's free, and a lot of people are playing some form of Grixis core. Well, Scott, you're melting now. Why are you melting?
Mitch in the chat goes,
Oh
"Yeah,
my god.
it's variance that you didn't bring a good deck." Wow. That's okay. All right. We gotta move on.
Someone brings up Yuriko as a deck, and Yuriko is the exact type of cEDH deck that I really think is just emblematic of all of the bad deck building in cEDH. You're playing a
Oh
bunch
my
of
goodness.
mediocre cards to enable a mediocre payoff, and it's just not worth it.
Mm.
You have put bad cards in your deck to enable the payoff of drawing a card and dealing some damage. That's not worth it. Just play more good cards.
We are gonna
And
hear
there's a lot
about
of
this
cEDH
one.
decks that are like that, where you're filling your deck full of bad cards to enable mediocre things, and it's just not worth it. So why are you playing Yuriko? Just put it down.
Alex, it's
Pick
not
up something
bad.
better.
It's not bad cards. It's highly synergistic cards. They're not bad. There's a purpose for these ninjas that enables my other ninjas so my ninjas can draw cards and do other things.
I just think that
They're
any deck
highest
that
energy.
I think that any deck that needs to work on like it needs to work on the basis of oop, gotcha. Like I don't know. That's not the deck that I want to be playing.
Hold on, Scott. Are you
Oh,
are you
oh,
also
gotcha.
are you also shooting at Yuriko right now?
I would never
You-
fire shots at any deck. All I do is say the facts as I see them, and then you can make
Oh
your own
my.
conclusions
Okay,
based on
cool.
that. Um,
My conclusion is you're shooting. You're
uh,
you're you're pew pewing right now. You're pew
Alex,
pewing.
we have a question from MTG the Epic Storm. Can we ask Alex to rate the top 5 decks?
You already did. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean it's Rogsai, Winota, Najila. And this is in no particular order. Rogsai, Winota, Najila, Timnacrom, and there isn't a deck that matters at 5th. It's a big drop off to everything else in the format after that. I think that if you had to make me pick 5, it could be Korvold as an interesting level 2 deck, because I think that when metas does develop, you get to play that level 2 game of being like, yes, I will exploit the crap out of all of you people putting artifacts into play, and then your dock side's better. And there's a bunch of reasons why you get to be on that next level if you're playing against all other good decks. But I think that the problem with Corvold sometimes is that it runs out of steam against the not as good decks, which is really weird. Someone's asking me a vintage question.
Yeah, why do
So
you think
Vintage Rug plays Collector Roof, which I'm not even sure that it does, because you can play 4 of them and you can attack for the win with it. Collector Roof is a win condition in Vintage. It's not a win condition in CEDH. I actually haven't looked at Vintage in a while, but I don't think that Rug is very good at the moment. And you also get to do a bunch of other fun things in Rug, like play Oko Thief of Crowns, Ren and 6, etc. And there's a lot more things you can do in that format that matter that don't matter in CEDH, and it's not a one-to-one comparison there.
Excellent, excellent. Chat is interested to see your painting. Maybe we can get into that in a moment. But I think the next question to ask, and I love that we have gone in branching paths, because just the sign of a good talk to me. But as far as from switching from card format, we're going to encourage any other 60 card players trying to get into the format. If you're going to talk to those people about things that they need to look out for, like say 3 things they need to look out for switching to cEDH or starting to play more cEDH, what advice would you give to those?
You have to think a little bit more about some of your actions. Helping an opponent isn't always bad. Sometimes you want to make your opponent draw a card so they can find their counterspell for the third player who's going off. Sometimes those are good things. Creatures are uncounterable. It's a really weird dynamic, but also that countering creatures doesn't matter that often unless it's dockside. I don't know. I guess the third thing is that not to get suckered in by the massive list of decks on the database. Most of them aren't really that good, and it shouldn't. It's whatever. Thassa's Oracle doesn't matter because it's red blastable. It's a blue creature. That's very different than just being a creature. Also, if you're not playing red blasts in your deck, put 2 red blasts in your deck. Card
Johnny,
is broken.
how do you feel about blasts in cEDH?
Yeah. I got converted. I don't know if it's correct.
Wait,
yet,
are you
though.
playing blasts now? Hurt you.
They did,
Oh,
Scott.
okay,
They
fair.
did.
Fair.
They did. The 60 card toxic players did. But yeah, that's solid talk
Yeah, I
we're
think
having
those
here.
are.
Um,
You got a Shawnee.
what do I have? I'm
Do the
just gonna
Shawnee list.
support. I'm gonna support the players who are out here still drawing cards, because at the end of the day, card draw is good, and the person who draws the most cards normally win. You just need to play good cards when you're drawing cards too. That's the only downside to it.
Yeah,
Um,
I've actually heard that drawing cards and winning the game is bad in your meta.
Listen, um, I have heard this, but I also have proven. I don't know. I have proven. I don't know, Scott. Listen, I'm here testing, trying to be a better player, calling the bad cards, and it kills my soul every day when I do it.
I feel.
But
I
we
understand.
just we just have to try to stick it out and eventually get there. Maybe one day I can have a CDH championship to my name.
I doubt it.
I doubt it too, Scott. I
No,
doubt
because
it
you
too.
work for Eminence.
Yeah, that's just not happening
You
anymore.
and I, we can't hit that tournament circuit, and luckily for all the other players, right? Like,
Yeah, just we've been being just very salty at them and screaming at them. So
yeah.
for
Also, we'd
the
be winning every.
for the sanity of others, it's good
Yeah,
that I'm not
yeah,
playing
yeah,
tournaments
for
anymore.
sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh,
Um,
so I mean, the knowledge dropped so far, and the advice that you've just given to CEDH, 60 card players who might want to move into CEDH is awesome. But Alex, with the last kind of like 5 to 10 minutes of the show, I want to learn a little bit more about what makes you tick. And so, the first question I have for you is will we see you at any in person tournaments in the upcoming year?
Uh, I am very likely to go to Silicon Dynasty.
let's go.
Excellent.
I don't
Nice.
know much beyond that, but I am very likely to go to that.
Excellent. And what deck do you think you might bring?
There's no doubt in my mind that I'm bringing Roxai.
Okay, all
There's
right,
just no
yeah.
reason not
I
to.
had to ask, like maybe you were gonna throw the Isan curveball or something. Like,
We could definitely hope.
Alex, how long have you been playing Magic in
I have
general?
been playing Magic since ninth edition, so like 2005 or so. But I've only been like playing competitively since Return to Ravnica.
What's your what's your favorite deck in any format?
That would be the Epic Storm and Legacy, though there is
Yeah,
also a soft place in my heart for Grixis Tinker Breach in Vintage, um, which is the deck I won Eternal Weekend with, which was super fun.
very cool. So you have an Eternal pin under your belt. Do you
Shout out
play
to Brian Cook for the deck list. That's all I'm doing is hanging on to the coattails of greatness there.
works out? You know, Bryant is a product of the area around which I live, so all very happy and proud of him and his proteges. Um, yeah, chat has been popping off. Everything's been pretty good all night. Um, Alex, are you
Oh, there's
prepared? Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
oh, hold on. There's a Braid story. Please share that Braid story before we hit the lightning
Oh,
round.
so back in 2019, I was registered for a Grand Prix Niagara Falls, and I was a mediocre Magic player. And I got it in my head that the card Abrade was the secret tech. One single copy of the main deck Abrade was the secret tech to take down the tournament. Uh, it killed Stoneforge Mystics, Blow Up Equipment, killed Chalice of the Void, because Chalice of the Void is just the worst. And I was very wrong. I went 4-4 and did not day 2. And Brian has never let me forget that I have registered a main deck of Braid in a Grand Prix.
Okay.
So,
How does that make you feel?
It's mistakes of our youth. that's how we feel
Fair
about it.
enough. Yeah, we've all come a long way. Um, Alex, the lightning round begins now, and it starts with my favorite, well, my second favorite question to ask, and that is, what are you obsessed with right now that isn't Magic the Gathering?
The Apex Legends,
Okay,
the best battle royale on the market right now.
probably correct. I really enjoyed the time that I've played Apex. I'm very bad at it, but it is a fun game. Do you play ranked or?
Oh yeah, grinding through plat right now.
Excellent, excellent. Have you ever done any coaching sessions? You ever done any coaching with people?
I've gotten coaching from a couple of professional coaches. It's been super fun to be able to talk to them and pick their brains. Um, TSM's Apex coach loves Magic, loves comparing the games, and there's a lot of overlap between the 20 team free for all and the way that cEDH works about playing to increase your own win percentage to not
Yeah.
grief yourself, even if it means removing another team. So
I'm going to say, as someone who's just started playing Apex, game is terribly sweaty.
Oh, it's
God damn it,
very
it is
sweaty.
sweaty.
It is
I'm
very
being
sweaty.
farmed.
Even
I'm being
even
farmed
in
so,
quick play, it is sweaty, bro.
dude. I'm being farmed so hard right now. I don't think I'm quitting the game immediately. Absolutely not.
It is so
there's a
sweaty.
learning curve to it for sure.
I like
That's
the
a
sweat though.
sweaty.
Honestly, like if I start playing a game and I can't, like some people unwind by casually playing League or whatever and feeding or whatever. But if I like start playing a game, I need to like go for it. I need it to be challenging. Like that's why it's fun.
Get
But
you. But I like winning, and when you're being farmed in the first 2 minutes of the game,
oh, just get
yeah.
good.
Okay. This is
You're
why I
not
do this shit.
immediately good at a game. You should give it up forever.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That is what
you're
I'm
playing
saying.
controller anyway. You just got the aimbot on lock. So
Wow. Okay.
Oh,
Move it
you have
on.
you
Move it
have
on.
so much aim assist in Apex. Oh my gosh. Anyhow, they need it. PC Master Race, whatever. Uh Alex, do you have any projects going on that you want to shout out? Anything you want to talk about? Anything that we can look forward to seeing from you in the near future?
yeah, I am working on a guide for new players to the Epic Storm, and we have the seventh part of that coming out this month in about a week or so. All about the introductions to matchups against various archetypes of Legacy, Control, other combo decks, Chalice decks, um, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I also am starting a guide for 60 card players to get into cEDH and kind of the intricacies there, which will be full of lots of opinions about how this format works that I think that maybe a lot of people will agree with. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very good pursuit to try and build that resource. And if people disagree with you, then they can build their own resource. Uh,
true.
because there can be differences of opinion, and that's fine. Um, lastly, well, not lastly, but penultimately, if people want to find more of you on the internet, where can they go?
You can find me in the Storm Discord. I'm there all the time. You can also find me on Twitter at twitter.com/Vivaris underscore. I don't really stream on Twitch anymore, but yeah.
Everest. Oh
Right,
yeah.
right.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Hundred
Oh,
percent. Oh
sometimes I
we.
show up on MTG, the Epic Storm's YouTube channel. Brian sometimes lets me ride along for leagues and be the voice in his ear, convincing him to make all of the bad plays. So
um. Lastly and most importantly, Alex, Bryant gave me a pretty sassy answer to this question, and it broke my heart a little bit. So please, just temper your response. Give me a chance to feel something. In your opinion, what is the sexiest soup?
sexiest soup. I don't know.
All right.
That's
No,
fine.
no.
That's
Give it,
good.
give,
I mean, chicken noodle soup is always a good one.
oh my
Always
goodness.
good.
That
Always
is
good for you.
that is so basic. It's terribly okay.
Exactly. There's
All right.
nothing wrong with chicken noodle soup. It's always good.
I expected better.
Hey,
Just a little bit. Just a
maybe
little bit.
maybe being average is what is really the sexiest thing. In which case, Oshani, People Magazine might be calling you next year.
Get
Let's get back to the missionary of
home.
soup.
Okay. All right.
Wow. This
Next week,
roasting
can
is
we have a
obnoxious.
Shawnee and Mitch debate? No, next week we have a very special guest that you'll find out about soon. Uh, My name is Scoots. I'm at twitter.com/itsmescoots. When my account gets to 420 followers, I will delete it and go outside and smoke a J. Ashani, where can people find you?
Uh, Find me on Twitter at Jamaican Dude Jashani. You can find me on Discord as Jamaican Dude. Uh, that's about it.
Excellent. And from all of us here at Eminence Gaming, we hope to see you next week. Have a really good one, and we're out until next time. Bye bye.
Bye.